Hello, and welcome to The Hump with Katie Thiroux. I'm your host, Katie Thiroux, and I'm bringing you interviews with some incredible artists, finding out why are they so amazing, how did it all happen, and what can we learn from their journey. Before we get started today, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the clothing company, Jam's World. If you've ever seen me before, you know that I love to wear colorful clothing. I'm wearing Jam's World right now. I love it because it keeps me so cool and so comfortable because it's made from 100% spun crushed rayon. And you guys, when I'm up there performing on stage, I am working my butt off. And I know that Jam's World's going to keep me nice, cool, and comfortable. Plus, I feel like I'm wearing a piece of artwork made just for me. I love that it's a family-owned company, all handmade in the US and Honolulu, Hawaii. So go give them a look at jamsworld.com and use the promo code JAZZ15, JAZZ15, to get 15% off your entire purchase. I also want to remind you that I'll be releasing brand new episodes of The Hump every Wednesday, every Hump Day. So subscribe and download on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and follow us on Instagram at The Hump with Katie to stay up to date. You're not going to want to miss a beat of what's going on over here. Okay, I am so excited to bring you our guest today, the one, the only Christian McBride. I refer to him as a superhero because he's not only a hero of mine, but a hero of so many other people. And not only does he kill it on the bass, but he's an amazing artistic director, music director. He's played with everyone from Freddie Hubbard, Betty Carter, Roy Hargrove, Ray Brown. Everything he touches is a success, and I'm just so honored that he took the time with us today. So, without further ado, here is Christian McBride. There you are.
What's up, Katie?
Hey, Christian, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for taking the time today to be on The Hump.
My pleasure. Gosh, it's you're doing great stuff, man.
Oh,
Killing.
Thank you. Enough about me, Christian. I want to talk about you.
Oh, how's Dom?
Dominic's good. You know what? He's such a great natural bass player, right? But he's kind of gone in the direction of production and engineering and actually building studios.
Oh, nice.
So kind of the scientific background of it.
Oh, wonderful.
But I'm like, man, he's such a great bass player. I wish he was playing more, just like out of the sheer joy of hearing him play.
We'll get him back.
Yeah. Everyone comes back to the bass eventually.
Oh, he'll be back.
Well, thanks so much, Christian. I know your time is very valuable because, like most bass players, you're in so many different directions and you do it so well. So I have a couple questions for you here today. No hard balls, but
I mean, those are fine too. If you want to go there, I can whatever you got.
All right.
I can handle it, I think.
Okay. Well, I first want to ask you, I saw you at Port Townsend when I was still in high school, and you said something that really stuck for me forever. You said, you were doing an interview, and you said, practice now while you have the chance, because trust me, you're not going to have the time later.
That's right.
And I didn't, it didn't register at that time because I was, a teenager and going, I've got all the time in the world right now. Everything's fine. So I wanted to ask you, when you were first getting into the bass, did you do that? Did you take that to heart yourself?
Well, I enjoyed practicing. Practicing was never a big issue for me. It was more of an issue not to practice. My mother would often just get so frustrated with me because that's all I would do. I would just come home after school and just play. And she'd be like, don't you have homework to do? I already did it. No, you didn't. Go do your homework. And I'd spend like a half an hour, and she'd be like, I know you're not finished, or you didn't do a good job. Go back to your homework. So, yeah. When I was in school, I just, that's all I did was shed. And once I got to New York and started gigging and started traveling, and as I got older and life started getting more real.
Yeah.
We make I'm really surprised that so much of what we do gets romanticized, because a lot of it is hardly romantic.
Yeah.
When you're in the thick of life and in the thick of being a touring musician, finding time to share, specifically if you're a bass player.
Yeah. Yep.
See, if you're a trumpet player, you got your instrument with you all the time. You
Mhm.
saxophone player, you got your instrument with you all the time. You can share it while you're at the gate waiting for your plane. But you can't do that as a bass player.
No. No, not at all. So I know, because some of my favorite recordings of you are so early on. I mean, Lush Life with Joe Henderson, and you can hear, like, Malcolm Gladwell, the 10,000 hours rule. You need 10,000 hours to be, a master at something. I hear like 100,000 hours by the time you were like 19 at that time. But you can hear, like, okay, either this person is just incredibly a natural, or they've really put in their time in such a short amount of time.
Well, thank you very much. I love that Malcolm Gladwell book, and I love that theory, but I also think that you could theoretically put in 10,000 hours on the wrong shit.
So true. Yeah.
So, when it comes to practicing, I always tell people, and I keep this in mind for myself as well. If you sound good when you're shedding, you're not shedding right.
Okay.
You're supposed to sound bad when you practice. That's why you're practicing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, whatever time that you have, spend 2/3 of that time practicing on stuff you're really bad at. You know what I mean? And just try your best to really be selfless and honest, and understand what you're really poor at. And then the final third of that time, you go back and shed on stuff that, keep your muscles up on what you are good at.
Mm-hmm.
So only you can figure out what it is that you need to shed on and what you're strong at, and to make sure that stays strong.
Or the other option is, you'll be on a gig and someone tells you, hey, you need to do this. You need to work this shit out.
I mean, that, yes, absolutely. And if somebody tells you that, that might sting for a second, but then you got to get over it and think, okay, maybe I should check this out. You know what I mean? 'Cause nobody likes to hear that they're not doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And but in order to do a good job, you have to acknowledge that maybe you're not doing the best job.
Yes.
And you can always get better. You can always get better.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Okay. Yeah, 10,000 hours on the wrong thing. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
I
know some cats that have probably put in 10,000 hours who you and I probably wouldn't call for gigs.
We're not going to go there.
Not going to go there, no.
Okay, and I'm just totally curious about, I think of you, you're like a superhero. So it's like your like your origin story, it's like, did you ever have that moment that, like, was it that you saw the bass and you were like, I have to play this? Or was it, I know a lot of people, it's like, we need a bass player, you're going to play bass. What was your kind of moment of choosing the bass?
Excuse me, seeing my dad play one night. I'd seen my dad play a number of times, but this one particular show, I must have been 7 or 8 years old, and he was playing with Mongo Santa Maria at that time. And I don't know, out of all the times I'd seen him play, this one particular one just stood out. And when I got home from the performance, my parents weren't together at this time. But when I got home, I said, Mom, I'd like an electric bass for Christmas. And my mom, always being the wonderful person that she is, she said, okay, that's what you want. That's what I'll get you.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this. She got me this short scale electric bass. It was called a Kingston, and that's how I first started playing the bass. And I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
My dad came over, and I said, "Dad, show me something. I want to learn how to play this thing."
Yeah.
And first song he ever showed me how to play was the old Temptations hit, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, like, total bass anthem.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, okay, that didn't seem too difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can figure this out, And I learned Papa Was a Rolling Stone in, pretty short amount of time. And I said, show me something else. Show me something else. And I think the next song I learned how to play was Hall & Oates, I Can't Go For That.
Okay.
And I just started really, I fell in love with the electric bass. I started listening to all of my mom's R&B records and listening to the radio and trying to learn the bass line from every record I heard.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I turned 11 years old, my mother said, okay, you're serious about this. It's time to get you some formal training.
Mm-hmm.
And so she sent me to a middle school in Southwest Philadelphia that had a very well-respected music program. And that's when I started playing the double bass.
Mm-hmm.
And started taking private lessons, started playing in the orchestra. And strangely enough, I didn't really enjoy playing the acoustic bass like the first couple of months. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I already played electric bass. So in my mind, I was like, why do I need to play 2 basses?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's redundant. Yeah.
But after a couple of months, it started to grow on me, and it soon became a joy.
Mm-hmm.
And playing both basses now, of course, in retrospect, that's the greatest thing I could have ever done.
Yeah.
My first choice was trombone. When I got to middle school and had to play in the orchestra, I figured like electric bass and trombone. Yeah, that'll be my double.
Yeah. Oh wow.
But I had no talent for the trombone.
Well,
and
we're lucky and happy for that. That's okay. Oh, well, that's great. And then you fell in love with it, and you constantly practiced your butt off, and then you ended up at Juilliard, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. While I was in high school, I was playing as much classical music, European classical music, as much as I was American classical music. And my teachers at that time said, well, I think you're good enough to, you should try to take a shot at going to Juilliard.
Mm-hmm.
I was studying with a man named Neil Courtney. Neil Courtney was the associate principal of the Philadelphia Orchestra for many, many years. And I studied with him. I studied with Annie Peterson. And I studied with a lady named Margie Keefe, who was my very, very first bass teacher in middle school. So by the time I got to be a sophomore in high school, they suggested that I try out for the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra, which was, pretty much like the training ground for, like, most musicians that play in the symphony from Philly come through the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started playing with them. I was playing in the Temple University Community Youth Chamber Orchestra. And my symphony chops were way up,
uh-huh.
By the time I got to be a senior in high school. And but my heart was in jazz and R&B. But I knew as a musician it would be smart to be able to be good at playing a lot of different styles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I said, well, I got to get to New York. First and foremost, I want to move to New York because that's where all my jazz heroes were,
mm-hmm.
But I was also my classical chops were up. So I said, well, let me take a shot at Juilliard, Manhattan School of Music, or the New School. It was more important for me to be in New York.
Yeah.
I didn't care what school I got into as long as I was in New York. And much to my surprise, I got into Juilliard. I also got into the New School in the Manhattan School of Music. But, just the gravitas of the name, Juilliard, which had no jazz program at that time, by the way. I went there to strengthen up my symphonic and on my on that repertoire, and I went to Juilliard. I started in the fall of '89, and I started studying with Homer Minch.
Oh wow!
Who was just great man, a pedagogue of the highest order, and he always had a soft spot for jazz players, and I believe Shawnette Moffett studied with him. Bob Cranshaw has spent some time with him. He was very good friends with Ray Brown and John Clayton. He knew all of the jazz cats, And when I would take my lessons, the first 15 minutes of the lesson would be like, hey, what have you been playing on some of your jazz gigs, and then we would get into what the actual lesson was, which in retrospect, I probably didn't do as good a job as I should have done because, by the time I got to school, as fate would have it, I was fortunate. I started gigging pretty soon, after I got to town. So in my heart, I'm like, okay, I'm in New York doing what I came here to do.
Yeah.
But then my brain is like, no, you came here to go to school. So concentrate on what they give you at school. And so there was this constant tug of war between my heart and my head. My head was like, look, your mom made sure, she gave you the green light to go to New York, to go to school. Not to become a jazz musician out there in the street hustling for gigs, So do right by your mom and your family. They want to see you do well in school. And my heart is like, no, they want to see you do well as a professional.
Yeah. I think that's a running theme. I know that was like Ray Brown, John Clayton. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And, after, as the school year was starting to wind down, I'm hanging out at Bradley's. I'm playing jam sessions all the time. I'm gigging with Bobby Watson here and there. I had an opportunity to join Betty Carter's trio, and so between my, getting ready to join Betty's trio, which actually never happened, and then also playing with Roy Hargrove and Bobby Watson, I thought I can't juggle both anymore. I got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And so the first person I actually went to was Mr. Minch, and I told him about my situation, and he said, "Hey, man, Juilliard will always be here. If you're getting those types of professional opportunities, and you think you're going to be all right in doing that, then go. I'll be here if you want to do that." So he was great. He was so great, and but that conversation wasn't nearly as difficult as it was with my mom.
Oh, yeah.
So I walked around. I was pacing for days, like, how do I tell my mom that I don't want to go back to college for my second year, or my third, or my fourth?
Yeah.
I called my mom from a payphone right near Lincoln Center, which is, of course, where Juilliard is. And I said, "Mom, I'm working a lot. I'm getting gigs, and things are really looking up. And so because of that, I don't think I want to go back to Juilliard next year." And I remember there was a long pause on the phone. There was silence on the phone for like 60 seconds.
That's a lot.
And I'm like, hello?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm here. Just, give me a second. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And my mother said, okay, look, if you're working that much and you think you're going to be okay, she said, well, where are you going to live? Because, you got to find a place to live. And I said, well, my friend Mark Carey, who was Betty Carter's pianist at that time, he's got room in his apartment. He said I can move in with him. And she's like, are you going to be gigging enough that you're going to be able to make your rent? Do you need to go out and get a job? Things that, moms worry about.
Yep.
And the conversation ended with my mom saying, well, if I taught you anything, it's to be smart and try to make wise decisions. So if you're cut from my mold, then I trust you. Then you go. And so once my mom gave me the green light, then it was off to the races.
Yeah, it probably made that so easy for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's your origin story, Christian. I love it.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. And you mentioned Betty Carter, and you're just so you're a superhero to me, because you've played with people like Betty Carter, Freddie Hubbard, Bobby Watson, like these schools that people go through, like you would go through Art Blakey and Horace Silver, and then also so many projects of your own. But what did you learn from either Betty Carter, Bobby Watson, being in with people like that are so established, like that kind of helped you along your way?
Oh man, that's so broad. I learned so much from them. And I think one of the great things about learning life lessons is that they plant a seed, meaning that you might not figure out what that answer is for a long time, So I'm sure experiences I had with all of those legends, I'll probably still be learning things as life progresses, There's the obvious things, about learning repertoire, not being stuck mentally, because you hear musicians say things like, oh, well, I'm stuck. I'm creatively stuck. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to play. People like Betty and Freddie Hubbard and Bobby Watson,
that didn't exist.
They were like, what's that?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're stuck? Why are you stuck? What does that mean? I can't think of nothing to play. What do you mean you can't think of? What are you talking about? Right? And so they were like, just play. What are you trying to do that you can't seem to do? Why are you worried about that? Just play.
Yeah.
Just play. On the other hand, Betty Carter was she could not stand people repeating themselves, right?
I've heard that,
She did not like you to sort of find a place of comfort. No. She would much rather you play something that didn't sound good, that had intent
to
play something that she heard you play before. Like, she was not feeling that on any level, but intent was more important for her, rather than playing the right notes. You can always clean up the notes. It's the intent that she was more concerned with, being in the moment, being reactionary to everything that was going on in that moment. And oftentimes some lick that you fell back on, or something that you did, that's something like, oh, well, this is something that I can do that always works. Right?
Yeah.
And Betty was like, nah, I'm not trying to hear that, And there were some musicians who didn't mind that. Milt Jackson didn't mind that. A lot of musicians didn't mind that, So it was always like this. That's why I like playing with a lot of different people. You get a lot of concepts. Some will say that's perfect. Some will say, no, that's not right. And I like that challenge of, okay, like, what do I need to do to serve this band leader? What does this music call for? what do I need to do in this situation?
Exactly.
So
you always have to be open, keep your ears open,
yeah,
and be listening all the time.
being uncomfortable and being in situations and where you don't know what to do and where you could potentially fail,
Mm-hmm.
that's learn the most.
Yeah, it's I love what you said too, because I've spoken to a lot of like Mark Carey and Jason Moran who worked with Betty Carter, and it's just like having someone yell in your face saying no. I mean, I've heard a lot of other things, but
Oh yeah. And
uh,
Mark with Betty and Abby Lincoln.
yes,
I don't know how he's
he's still
got
alive.
some
Yeah,
skin. I'm telling you.
yeah,
I mean, Betty, for as great of a band leader as she was, as a legend, as much of a legend as she was, she could be quite cruel.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And and we talk about this day and age of of not being cruel.
Mm-hmm.
Being cruel could get you hashtagged.
Yeah.
You know? And Betty, man, look here.
Well,
All them old
it's
cats, Betty, Freddie Hubbard. Ooh,
well, and it's important too. I mean, I've found as a band leader myself. I mean, I'm just getting started, but if I need to tell someone, after a gig, I'm not going to yell at them during a gig, but
yeah,
that wasn't, you're not cutting it, or or you keep playing the wrong chord or something. I'm not going to let it fly, because or else no one's going to be learning.
yeah. That's right. That's right. I remember being in a situation once. Couple of things that happened that really, at first, it made me upset, but then I realized that hopefully that person's going to come around.
Mm-hmm.
And see, we live in an era now that there's so much there's a lot of social uprising going on right now. There's a lot of protests, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of attempts at crumbling what we call systemic racism,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what can also happen in the middle of all of that? Anytime there's a movement that happens, people can get mad, but it's the truth. Opportunism can occur, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is my shot to get something that I want,
Yeah.
right? Let me jump on the bandwagon. So with that being said, I remember being in this situation once where I was playing this gig, guy came up and sat in, and he was sad. I mean, he couldn't play.
Yeah.
He just couldn't play, right? But I admired his determination. He kept coming to sit in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play. I want to play. Look, oh, okay, man. Look, just come up and play a couple of courses.
Yeah.
And each time he would play, everybody would be like, oh, McBride, why you keep letting this cat sit in, man? He's just like ruining the vibe, right? Mm-hmm. And after like the final night of the gig, he was like, hey, man, so like, can I give you my phone number? Like, can you like call me for some gigs one day? I'm like, no. I mean, you can give me your phone number, but I mean, no, I'm not calling for no gigs, man.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I mean, what do you mean? Why not? I'm killing. I said,
wow.
No, you're not killing.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. You're not, no, man, you're not doing well. And he says, oh, I get it. You don't want me in your band because I'm white. I see. I know how pro-black you are. You don't want a white guy standing in front of your band. And I went, if that's what you need to tell yourself to make yourself feel better,
mm-hmm.
then you go right ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as inaccurate as anything could be.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's what you need to make yourself feel better, go right ahead.
Yeah.
And so I believe he tried that on a couple of people in the future. And I think, honestly, at some point he realized, I actually am not that good.
Yeah.
let me try something else, you know. Now, another situation that happened was I taught this master class at the Manhattan School of Music. This was maybe 8 years ago. And Christian Sands, who was playing in my trio at
mm-hmm.
that time, was still a student at the Manhattan School of Music. And so I'm teaching this master class, and I was on the subject of learning songs in all keys, like to learn the numerical progression for any song.
You're talking to my heart, Christian.
Yeah. So I'm trying to teach these, particularly bass players, pianists, guitarists, to be able to study the numerical progression so you can play any song in any key. And that's not easy. That's something you have to shed at that, right? And I said, let's take, for example, a song like Body and Soul. You know, how many of you guys know that? And like the entire classroom raised their hand. I said, how many of you can play, I mean, right now, without thinking about it, how many of you can play Body and Soul in E? And like all the hands shot back down. You know, I said, how many of you can play it? You know, we all know Body and Soul in D flat. How many of you can play it in A flat? You know, how many of you think you can play it in any key? And like a couple of hands, you know, kind of. So I called one of those kids up. I said, come on up. I said, I'm not going to tell you the key. I'm just going to set it up, but I'll make it extremely clear. I'll make it as clear as I can so you know where I am. And so he didn't do it. He didn't play it right like the first 2 or 3 times. And I surely wasn't upset. It's not, I'm not one for making someone look bad. I mean, especially in front of your peers in school, right? Yeah. But he volunteered, right? So he said, I'll give it a shot. I'll come up. And so I was like, nope, that wasn't it. I said, check me out. I'll play it again. And he came in wrong. I said, it's okay. It's okay. I'll play it again. And he didn't get it right. I said, now, I'm playing it in, I can't remember what key I was playing in. I think I might have been playing in F or something like that. And once I gave it to him, he was just like, oh, yeah, right. You know, and so once he figured it out, he killed it, right? And so I said, you know, I thanked him for coming up, and he said that I told it, I said, okay, so guys, that's the kind of stuff that used to happen to me when I would play at Bradley's. You know, that's what all of the young cats had to go through. Roy Hargrove, we all went through that, you know. So those are the things that you should practice on to prepare you for the real world when you get out there. Now, when the master class was over, this man comes up to me and he's berating me. That was a horrible thing you did to that young man. You embarrassed him. You made him look bad. You probably broke his spirit. And I'm thinking, like, I mean, no, this man was like irate. Like, he had his finger in my face and he was like nose to nose and like saying how I embarrassed this young man. I went, sir, he volunteered. I told him what I was looking for and he volunteered, you know. I did not embarrass him. And so couple of days later, I get an email from one of the students like, it was a really nice master class, Mr. McBride, but, you know, it was so mean how you embarrassed, you know. And I went like, really? Wow. So now I'm feeling like, wow, okay, maybe I did embarrass him. Let me call him up. Let me find out this kid's name and call him up. And I'm going through this whole thing. I said, look, man, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I wasn't trying to embarrass you. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, man, all these people are writing me, telling me how it was wrong for me to call you out and embarrass you in front of the class. Like, he was like, Mr. McBride, I raised my hand to come up there and have that, you know, go. I wasn't embarrassed at all. I said, so you're cool. He's like, cool? I enjoyed the experience. Yeah. I enjoyed it. You know, I went, okay, good. Now, how this relates to that first experience was when that man literally yelled at me on the elevator for like embarrassing that young kid, there was a part of me that thought, I never thought of that. I realized that the kid didn't get it right the first 2 times, but I never thought of that as embarrassment. Yeah. Or like breaking his spirit or being mean. Well, maybe it was. Let me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always willing to like say, maybe this person has a point. Let me scope it out.
Yeah.
Right. And that guy who sat in with me, who fell on that, sort of false racist cushion,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should be doing something different. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not as good as I think I am. You know what I mean? When there's something in life that you don't get, you have to be selfless and question, like, yeah, maybe the system is screwed up. And it's certainly in the American history. You just look at the history of this country. There's all kinds of systems that are unfair, imbalanced, all screwed up. And yes, we do need to fix it. But at some point, you have to ask yourself as a human being, am I doing all I can to make all ships rise?
Yeah.
I mean, like, am I doing the best thing for myself? Am I being the best person I can possibly be? Yeah, there are some things that I deserve that I'm not getting. But is it me? Like, if I lose a gig, is it because that person is mean? Is it because that person is whatever, racist, homophobic? Or is it maybe I'm just either I'm not practiced enough for the gig yet. 2, I'm an asshole.
Yeah. No,
I mean?
you're not.
No, but like these are questions people really need to start asking themselves in every situation, all across the board.
Yeah, and it's not an easy thing, because when you're comfortable, you're kind of like, yeah, everything's cool, but then you really take a look and you go, well, you know what? I really messed up on that tune every single time.
And I'm sorry for using profanity. I don't even know. You might have kids watching this.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's no fucking big deal, Christian. Yeah, no, and that's a hard question to ask ourselves, because we can get in that groove of feeling really good. I got this gig, I'm writing this piece of music, and then all of a sudden, oh, that gig's someone else is doing it, and not in a jealous way, but you know what? Yeah, I screwed up.
Yeah. It's okay to screw up. It's worse when you screw up and you refuse to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Christian, I know we have a little bit of time left, but I just got to get to my favorite subject of Ray Brown.
Oh, wait, we got time. We got 10 minutes.
Okay.
I'll give you 9 minutes. 7. We'll talk till the next person calls.
Okay. Well, yeah, I got to, on the subject of Ray Brown, I mean, that's a huge subject within itself, but how was it? I mean, playing with him, what'd you like? He was, like, to me, like, extraordinary bass player, musician, businessman, everything.
Yep.
What was it like when you first met him?
Scary.
Really?
I mean, just because he was a towering icon. I met him. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things you can never forget. It was March of 1991. I was playing a duo gig with Benny Green at a place called the Knickerbocker in Greenwich Village on 9th and University Place. And our manager at that time was very good friends with Ray Brown. And Ray was playing at the Blue Note, which wasn't very far away. And she said, I'm going to bring Ray to come hear you guys after he's done. And, I was scared to death. And for a number of reasons. Number one is Ray Brown. Secondly, I thought, this man just played a long gig at the Blue Note. The last thing he probably wants to do is go to another club and hear more music. Let the man relax. Let him go back to his hotel and chill. Don't bring him here, So, sure enough, we played a late set. I think we played like a 1 a.m. set. And here comes Ray Brown and Marianne walking through the door. And we were like, oh, man, here he is. And they sat down, and you could tell Ray Brown was listening with intent. He was really honed in on what we were doing. And after the set was over, Benny and I, sheepishly go over to his table, and we're like, "Hi, hello, Mr. Brown. Such an honor to meet you." Benny had met him once before, but this was, this is like meeting a biblical figure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A prophet or something. Like, yeah.
Hi, Mr. Brown. Oh my God, such an honor to meet you. And he was very effusive, very nice, very complimentary. And he said, "I'd like to invite you to my last set tomorrow night at the Blue Note." And so Benny and I went, and it was a Sunday night. And from where our seats were, you've been at the Blue Note.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we were at that like right at that front table, like right next to the steps going up to the stage. And the body of Ray Brown's bass was literally like 8 feet from my head.
Yeah.
Right. There was another person sitting next to me, but like Ray's bass was right there. So like the F holes were pointed right at my face. And Katie, it was like, that was an experience like none I could ever, maybe seeing James Brown live comes close. I mean, like, to hear that kind of sound, to experience that force and that joy, he was having fun when he played. I wasn't used to that. Jazz musicians, serious
stuff.
And like Ray was having fun. He was looking around, smiling, giving out verbal cues. And but that sound, he had an amp, but it wasn't turned up very loud.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the sound was coming from the instrument. And I mean, it literally changed my life. The way I played the bass changed that night. Because I was a Ray Brown, a Ron Carter head before then. I'd had black labella nylon strings on my bass.
Yeah.
I was trying to use the same posture as Ron Carter. I mean, my whole life was Ron Carter until that night in March of 1991.
Wow.
Ray Brown blew my head off. And then to top it off, when Ray Brown, so I'm sitting there with my mouth hanging open like I've never heard anything like this before. Then Ray gets on the microphone and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about what I heard last night after the gig." Wow. I went to a club nearby, and I heard these 2 young men playing, and let me tell you something, they were swinging like dogs. And he said, "I think you're going to be hearing a lot from these 2 young men in the future. I want you to listen out for Benny Green and Christian McBride." Now, granted, Benny Green had already played with Betty Carter and Art Blakey, and we were both in Freddie Hubbard's band at that time. So Benny was sort of well known to everyone in the audience, but me not so much. Not nearly as much as Benny. A few of the hardcore folks knew, but to get that endorsement from Ray Brown, man.
You must have been flying. Yeah.
Oh man, he became my second dad after that. And then of course super bass. Well, Benny Green soon replaced Gene Harris in Ray's trio about a year later, and then Ray started super bass just a couple of months after that.
Yeah. Amazing.
My life changed that night after seeing Ray Brown play live.
Wow. I remember I saw Ray Brown twice. He the same year he passed away, and the last time I saw him was at the old Catalinas in Los Angeles, and I think I was 12 years old, and you had walked in that night because you were.
Were you there?
Yeah, and I think you were playing with Jeff Keezer maybe at UCLA.
That's right. We played the UCLA Jazz Festival earlier that day.
Yeah, and I was there, and I got to shake his hand afterwards because my mom, I have a great mom as well, and she said, "You get up there and you go shake Ray Brown's hand." And I could tell, like, just like you said, he just played his ass off. He's tired. Yeah. I don't want to bother this guy. But I went over there, you know, said hello, shook his hand, and I was like, wow, there's Christian McBride just came in here, and yeah, it's a great memory.
Well, that's deep, Katie, because that was the last time I saw Ray Brown.
Wow.
That night was the last time I saw him. And I remember, do you remember when he acknowledged me over the microphone? Do you remember what he said?
No, tell me.
He said,
Uh-oh.
I didn't see him, but I know McBride's in the house because I heard him with that big mouth of his or something like that.
Wow. That's a compliment. That's great.
And yeah, I remember Ray came and he sat with me and Keezer Keezer and I went and sat with Ray.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ray Brown was gone like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah. That's deep to know that you were there.
Oh yeah, that was my mom. I think just like your mom was like, if something was happening, she'd find a way for us to get there. You know.
Yeah.
Christian, are you out of time? I think you are.
I am technically out of time. Yeah, I think this phone's about to ring any second now.
Okay, I want to thank you so much. Just really quickly, do you have anything you're working on that you want to let our listeners know?
Well, I just released a new. There he is.
There it is.
I just released a new online course on Open Studio.
Oh, fantastic!
Called The Sound Is Your Signature. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's about it.
Great. Well, I'm going to check that out then too.
Well, thank you, my friend. I look forward to this pandemic being gone so we can get together and talk and play.
Yes. Thank you so much, Christian. Really appreciate it. And stay safe. Be well. Thank you.
Hey, you too, Katie. Take care here.
All right. Bye.
Give my love to the family.
I will.
All right. Be
Bye.
cool. Bye.